NVS. Looks strong. One thing that concerns me is we're still under the 20 and the 200. The red lines are 200, purple's are 20. Also, we have a gap fill here, 80%, and you can take this with a grain of salt, honestly, but they say 80% of gap fills pull back after the gap's filled, and you can actually see that a lot. And I don't mean a crash, I just mean it's a good chance this could tap to 200 and pull back. But the chart looks like it's got some strength coming into it. The MACD is trying to cross. I'd like to see the MACD a little lower, crossing down here. Go look at the 5 minute. I like the 5 minute chart myself. We all, trade a little differently. So we got Friday and today, and we've been ascending both days. Looks strong. Look out. See what we see. That would be my biggest concern, would be the 200. Go back. So this is the weekly, just seeing if we see anything. Has room to move. That's the weekly, daily. Has room to move. You can see down here where we got outside of the Bollinger Bands. This is the 100. I don't trade with the 100, but I like to help use it for spotting setups on the daily. And you can see we got outside of the bands, which lets us know we were extended to the downside there. Bounced off from the 50 and the 100. Looks like it actually treated the 100 a little better than the 50 and respected it. That would be what I would watch for, is the 200, and of course you have your 20. So you want to see some resistance there, which is the top side of this gap. We did get above the 9 today. I would watch that, and like I stated earlier, they say 80% of gap fill of pullback at after the gap's filled, but that doesn't mean that it's going to crash. So I would expect some resistance right there, maybe a pullback, and then push right back at it, which would be nothing unusual. So if you're watching the 5 minute chart, we all trade differently. What matters is we get the results of making money. I would watch it for that level. Whatever chart you watch, I would watch the 1 or the 5, but just keep your eye out for that level if you, depending on how you want to trade it, swing trade or day trade. If you're watching for a day trade, just be careful with those levels. Don't let the pullback, cost you a losing trade. If you're swing trading, possibly, at least you're expecting it. Put it that way. I would probably wait to see if it could clear it, depending on what type of trading you're doing. But just be careful for a pullback there, because they do say that 80% of stocks hit a gap. I'm not a big gap fill person, type trader. I don't search for gaps or hunt for gaps. I do believe that more into, I'm going to explain this because other people are going to watch this. People don't realize how gaps are formed. It's after hours and pre-market movement that the daily chart don't pick up. This is why you normally don't see them when you dig into the intraday charts. And I believe more into price memory. Price just goes back. They always say gap fill, gap fill, gap fill. Well, basically price memory. Price always comes, goes and comes back, goes and comes back. So I'm not one to search for gap fill plays. I'm talking about volume profile a while ago, and sometimes if you have your volume profile, or in Weeble would be cost distribution, you can sometimes see if you have a gap. Sometimes you won't have, if you have a big move up, sometimes you won't have any support into it, and you can catch a move that way. But it looks strong. Looks like it's got some momentum coming into it. Relative strength, I don't have a comparison on, or an RSI, but I would say relative strength just about even with the market. But one thing I do take notice is this is moving on volume, expanding volume. So this would probably be your average daily volume in this area. So if you look, we're 1 1/3 to 1 1/2. 1 1/3 extra, so you have a third extra of the relative volume. Was moving here on relative volume, and you can even see, expanding volume back here, which is basically relative volume. And when you see that, you can look for a future push up. If we can get past those levels, it won't even need the larger amounts of volume. As long as the sellers are not there too heavy, you won't even need larger amounts of volume to get pushed up. If you can get freed up, you have plenty of room to move. You can actually see a little pinch right here, so this pinch right here shows you it was to the downside. Hopefully we'll get this bounce off to 100, and you can get a nice push up. It's a nice find. We may actually watch this in the Discord a little bit. Have a good night.